There are many fields and areas in psychology, as you can see from this slide. We will go through a few of them today in order to expose you to the numerous fields in psychology that exist. Whenever I travel or just meet new people and they find out that I'm a psychologist, they immediately ask me to help them with their everyday problems. I have no idea why you have been having sexual dreams about your neighbor or why your child is misbehaving, ma'am. I always want to tell them, but because they immediately think that I'm a clinical psychologist. And a clinical psychologist treats psychological problems and does research on therapies and mental disorders. A counseling psychologist treats milder problems such as troubles at work, school, or family. So both of the clinical and counseling psychology are fields about more like the therapy and counseling element of it. The only difference is clinical is more with the abnormal, what you would consider, whereas counseling is more the everyday problem. So if your parents are getting a divorce or you need a marriage counselor, that's what counseling psychologists would be able to help you with. However, not all the fields in psychology are counseling or clinical. They're more research oriented. For example, cognitive psychology studies human thinking and information processing abilities. So they study problem solving and how people remember things. At our school, at NMSU, some of the researchers that study cognitive psychology research study how people detect different objects. So for example, doctors detecting tumors, what are their likelihood of actually detecting a tumor if the tumor is not very prevalent most of the time, how TSA agent detects suspicious objects when screening the suitcase of the passengers, etc. Cultural psychology studies the ways in which culture, subculture, and ethnic group membership affect behavior. So, for example, these researchers investigate the differences between individuals who grew up in cultures valuing individual success more, such as the United States, and individuals who grew up in cultures valuing collective or group success more, for example, China. People from the individualistic culture, as I said, as the United States, typically demonstrate a more independent view of self. The focus is usually on personal achievement, whereas members for a collectivistic society have more of a focus on the group, so interdependent view of self, usually focusing on things that will benefit the group as a whole. Developmental psychology conducts research on infant, child, adolescent, and adult development. They do clinical work with disturbed children and act as a consultant to parents and schools. Engineering human factor psychology does applied research on the design of machinery, computers, airlines, automobiles, and so on for businesses and industry and military. And if you want to read more about this field, please check out module 78 in the textbook. Example of engineering or human factor psychology research is designing different products in order to make the most of their usability and make it easier for people to understand and use the product. So, for example, there's a fly drone in urinals in Amsterdam because men tend to aim at the fly, which makes them more accurate, which makes the urinals much cleaner. And that's, for example, what a human factor psychology designed and researched. Another element is seeing whether how using your cell phone, so for example in the picture, having the icons of all the apps in a certain way is also something that human factor psychologists might be interested in. Environmental psychology studies the effects of urban noise, crowding, attitudes towards the environment, and human use of space, acts as a consultant on environmental issues. If you want to read more about this field of psychology, please check out Module 76 in the textbook. So just for another example, environmental psychological researchers found that crowding, which is the subjective feeling of being overstimulated by a loss of privacy or by the nearness of others, can cause a loss of control over one's immediate social environments, and thus can actually lead to stress and health problems. So large cities result in sensory and cognitive overload because of all the flashing lights, all the individuals are there, all the cars, which can actually cause stress. Forensic psychology studies problems of crime and crime prevention, rehabilitation programs, prisons, courtroom dynamics, selects candidates for police work, etc. Psychology and the law is also a similar field that examines and studies behavior dimensions of the legal system. Specifically, they examine jury behavior. How do jurors reach their decisions? What factors influence jurors' decision-making process? So, for example, jurors find attractive defendants less guilty than unattractive defendants. Another example, because of the popularity of crime shows like Criminal Minds, NCIS, and CSI, jurors place too much confidence in DNA evidence and often expect to see such evidence. When they are not presented with the evidence, with the DNA evidence, they are much less likely to convict. And the opposite also is true. When they are presented with DNA evidence, they value it much more significantly than other types of evidence. Gender psychology researchers the differences between male and females and the acquisition of gender identity and the role of gender throughout life. So kind of looking at, the picture on the left, seems, nothing is wrong with it to the degree of we're more likely to find pictures like that and advertisements like this in the media. But kind of seeing the picture on the right kind of make us think, what? So that kind of like the type of research that gender psychologists might be interested in. Another field, industrial organizational psychology. If you are interested more in this, you can check out Module 75. Individuals in IO, which stands for industrial organizational psychology, often select job applicants, do skill analysis, evaluate on the job training, improve work environment, and human relations in organizations and work settings. So for example, researchers in this field found that workers are especially productive when they receive feedback about their progress towards goals, and workers are also most productive when they are happy at work. Surprising. And these researchers also are concerned with testing, selection, placement, and promotion of employees. School psychology. Individuals in school psychology do psychological testing, referral, emotional, and vocational counseling of students, detect and treat learning disabilities, and improve classroom learning. If you're interested more in this topic, you can check out Module 77. This is also similar to educational psychology, and individuals in educational psychology seek to understand how people learn and how teachers instruct. So for example, team-based learning, slightly how this class is built, is very important because you work more with teams and it's good because you have more diversity of ideas when you're interacting with others. So if you're working with your friend or something like that, you might have similar ideas. So working with strangers might lead to more diverse and creative ideas, um, which can actually make you a better candidate for future jobs. Because, in real life, we are all working, almost every job requires some sort of group interaction. And nobody guarantees it's going to be our friends who are going to be, at first, we're going to be interacting with them. So having that skill and that ability to respectfully interact with other people who might not have similar ideas as we do is very important. And that's why the class, this current class, is built a little bit the way it is, with the team-based learning, having like the discussion and the end of unit activities being group work. And the final one, I'm biased, but it's my favorite one because that's kind of the type of research that I'm interested in. It's social psychology, and it's investigate human social behavior, including attitudes, conformity, persuasion, prejudice, friendship, aggression, helping, etc. There are other fields as well, such as sports psychology. If you're interested in that, you can read Module 77. But that's all the fields that I wanted to cover. Hope you enjoyed them and you have a much better understanding of what psychology is and how it is not just all lying on the couch and telling a clinician your problems. All right?